Hi, and welcome to the VOILA Method podcast, Solutions for the Mind, Body, and Soul with Joel Crandall, the creator and developer of the VOILA Method. The VOILA Method bridges the gap between the complex, making it simple, using an assessment and a treatment protocol that aligns the mind, the body, and the spirit. VOILA Method is more than a technique, it's a lifestyle to help you as a practitioner and your client. Okay, and today my guest is the former VP of Apex and also of NASM, which is the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And he is the owner of All About Movement in Boca Raton, Florida, and also has a degree in exercise physiology. So I get to talk to another exercise physiologist, so I'm excited. So thank you for joining me, John.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. Yourself?
Very good, thank you. So obviously you were actually the reason for getting the VOILA method into Florida. So thank you very much for that. And I'm not sure what you expected of VOILA because you really didn't know much about it at that time. And honestly, I guess either did I. But from seeing where it's gone to now. But how has it, helped you personally and also in your with your clientele?
Well, I went down a road that most people have, where I started with movement. Everything's structural, everything's physical. And I began to veer off when I started to notice that people were sort of coming back with the same stuff that they were leaving. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were leaving feeling amazing, So I would go through these movement things and I would have them leave, or they would leave and then they would come back and I would be like, wow, I'm not getting to it yet. So I started to go on a journey to figure out, what am I missing, right? What's not happening? And I went through and I wanted to learn about things that were like, I started with something called PRRT, which is proprioceptive something. Proprioceptive, everything that is. So after I did that, then I began to go, okay, it was really all techniques, but there was something to it. I knew that I was going in a different direction. I was recognizing that, not at the time, but I was actually starting to recognize how much the brain played a role in what we're looking at when we're looking at our clients. So I said, the next step I wanted to do was muscle testing. And I think that's where we met when we were in San Francisco, some of the NK2 coaches.
Correct.
And there was on-body muscle testing, and then somebody had told me about PBTR, and how some of the stuff that we were learning in basic muscle testing were disproven by some of the methods from PBTR. So I went into that direction. And when I got to VOILA and I heard that the method was actually teaching self-testing. So I'll back up for 1 second. About 9 years ago, I had gone to Dr. Bartlett and Matrix Energetics. And I walked out of there knowing that he was definitely onto something, but I had no idea what it was. Zero. So it's funny how 9 years ago, it stimulated me enough to want to go on this journey, but I could only go on the journey where I was at the time.
And that's all we can do, isn't it?
Right. So I began to start to look at, like I said, still things that were more in my comfort zone, muscle testing and things like that. When I got to VOILA, it seemed like everything that I had learned up to that point began to start coming together. And I realized that even though I didn't really understand where you were going with the higher levels yet, I knew that you were onto something. And I knew that one of the biggest things that I really enjoyed about the VOILA method was the ability for me to then work on myself. And that to me was huge, and so that's how I ended up going down this road with you in VOILA.
Perfect. Yeah, the working on yourself is we're finding that that's like
where the true magic is, the true nugget, really. And we get to work on ourselves in different ways. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like we said before, you can only go where you're comfortable, right? So one of the things that I learned in my travels, once I recognized that you were working with your own and then other people's subconscious minds, I asked myself, who's the best at that? Hypnotists are the best at that. Neurolinguistic programming is the best at that. Clean language is the best at that. They live in the subconscious mind. Quantum physics is the best at that, right?
Right.
So I started going down those roads as just to get a better understanding of what I was doing when I was playing with this thing called the subconscious mind. And the beauty of that is I then began to recognize everything is the subconscious mind. So that, everyone's been through a lecture where they've shown the tip of the iceberg and everything that's underneath that.
Right. We do that, right?
Yeah. I mean, that just came to fruition for me. I was just like, wow, this is where we're playing. This is where the magic happens. This is how we need to view what we're doing and recognize that all the other stuff up there is not necessarily a smoke screen, but it is a representation of what's happening really at the magic level, if you will.
That's a great way to put it. It is a representation. Exactly. And that's what pain is. It's a representation that something is not right.
And then I realized not only is pain a representation, everything is a representation. Everything that we think we see when we're looking at the body is just a representation.
Yes.
So you start to go, wow, if you learn about some certain methods, you realize when somebody walks in, like for a neurolinguistic programming session or something like that, right? Which I don't do specific neurolinguistic programming session, but I will do a lot and incorporate it into my stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So what I find is when somebody comes in, they're going to give you their story. And it's like, okay, that's great that you're giving me your story. And I'm thinking to myself, of course, let's really talk about why you're really here, But again, you don't tell them that when they walk in. You find that out for yourself. And to me, that's the most fun that I could possibly have, is I become like a little child. I'm curious. I really want to understand, why is this person here today? Why did they walk through my door? And what am I going to learn from them? It's like incredible.
Yeah, and that's the one of the really beautiful things, John, that you brought to VOILA is that mentality. Because, I kept saying, you need to be, blank in your mind and all that. But then you took it to a different level and you're like, and this I'm going to just quote your words back to you, right? It's like, what is this client going to teach me today? Right? And that just flips the script. Now, people ask me, well, what are you going to do in a session? I have no idea. No idea. How it unfolds is how it's going to unfold. And if I try to manipulate it, well, now it's my ego that's taking over saying, I'm going to make you better, instead of how much are you going to reveal to me?
Yeah. In quantum physics, they say it would collapse the waveform. That's the language.
Say that again, John. Cut out real quick. I want to make sure everybody got that.
So in quantum physics, they'll call what you just talked about collapsing the wave function, right?
Collapsing
so in
the
other
wave.
words, there's a wave, right? There's a wave of information within the field. The minute you go to your left brain and think is the key, right?
Yep.
The minute you think that you know anything at all without asking first, you've collapsed the wave function into it has to be that.
Right.
It has to be that. It has no other choice.
Right. And now you influenced it. Yeah, now you influenced being the observer, right?
Yeah, why would I want to use my 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information, bullshit brain to figure out stuff when I have this whole vast, again, we're going back to our tip of the iceberg versus everything else. Yeah. Why wouldn't I want to use everything else at my disposal with an attitude of like a child, being childlike? Why wouldn't I want to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, doing it the other way would not be fun. I mean, it would be daunting, actually.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that back up because I forgot to use that word earlier because I forgot it. But that curiosity, right? That curiosity of play,
Yeah.
right? I have no idea where this is going, and I'm curious. I really want to see what's going on here and see what the story is going to reveal.
And I'm an observer, right? Just like the client is.
Yeah.
And so I find myself just observing just like they are. And together, we're going down this exploration, this journey, and it's just different, for the client. They can't explain it,
No.
which, is part of the fun, right? They leave and then they go back to their spouses or significant others or whatever, and they're trying to explain what just happened, and they come back and they go, I was trying to get my girlfriend to come see you, and she asked me what you did, and I couldn't explain it. And I go, perfect.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think when I saw you when you were out here in LA that you want to come up with the shirt, right? Voila, the undescribable or something like that,
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
where else can you have that kind of fun every single day? It is like being a child.
Yeah.
And this kind of takes me back, if I can indulge for a second, into my relationship with my son.
Hmm.
And he's 6 years old, okay?
Mhm.
And I wanted to take him to Disney World. Didn't want to go. What? 6-year-old doesn't want to go to Disney World, right?
Right?
So I found myself, I said, well, why don't you want to go to Disney World? His name is Pete. Why don't you want to go to Disney World, Pete? I said to him. And he said, well, Daddy, you didn't ask me if I wanted to go. Like, I basically just told him we were going to Disney World. Right? I was excited about it, so I told him we're going to Disney World. He goes, you didn't ask me if I wanted to, right? And so here I am using psychology on a 6-year-old. I'm like, well, Pete, as you know, when we go and do things, we always have a good time, right? Yes, right? I'm getting the yes step, right? Yes. So of course, we're going to go to Disney World and have a great time, right?
Right.
And he sits there for a second, and I got him now, I got a 6-year-old. Right? And I go to say something else. He goes, I got it. So then I asked his mother, I said, why wouldn't he want to go to Disney World? I go, what 6-year-old doesn't want to go to Disney World? And she hits me right in the face, and she says, he's afraid to go to Disney World with you because he's afraid that you're going to make him go on rides he doesn't want.
Oh.
And at that very moment, something punched me right in the face, and it said, you stupid, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? And I realized it was all of my fears, all of my crap that I was trying to prevent my son from having to go through that was creating what I thought a father was supposed to be. And so I said to him, I went back to him and said, Keegan, I'm going to make a deal with you. We'll go to Disney World together and we'll do anything you want to do. We won't do anything you don't want to do. And then I went inside myself and I said, basically, what would Walt Disney do, right? So where was Walt Disney when he created this amazing place? And so when I went to Disney World with my son, it was just, it was as magical as you would imagine it's supposed to be. It wasn't me trying to get him to go on rides he didn't want to go on in order to overcome his bullshit fears and all the, it wasn't any of that stuff.
Right.
So then, as things happen by chance, right? We go to Tom Sawyer's Island while we're at Disney World, right? And we go to walk to where the cave is. And he says to me, he's 6 years old, just about to be 7. And so I don't know if you know the rule of 7s in Chinese medicine. We talk about, from 0 to 7 is when we either get most of our fears, our learnings, our everything happens from 0 to 7 because we're little antennas, which are running around. We're picking up all we're doing, right? So he's just right about at that point where he wants to start doing things for himself, right? Because people don't realize you're lobotomized quadriplegic basically when you're born, right?
Right.
You can't take care of yourself.
Not at all.
And we learned in level 4, about the primitive reflex. That was just a turning point for me because I'm sure later. However, I realized at this point, so my son says to me, Daddy, can I go through the cave by myself and you meet me on the other side? And I was thinking, wow, okay. He's going to try to do this on his own.
And were you in
Around to the
handcuffs?
other side. Huh?
Were you put in handcuffs by the Disneyland police?
It's a great story. I run around to the other side and standing there waiting for him to come out. And I'm waiting. And I'm waiting. And a guy comes out and he says, are you waiting for your son? I said, yeah, there's a little boy in there crying. He got halfway in and he went, oh shit, I'm here by myself. And I don't have my dad,
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? Right? Do I run in the opposite way? I said, and so I just started yelling his name and running from one entrance and exit to the other, until finally he comes out, right? And he's just bawling. And so we go and we sit down. And so we have a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I said to him, I go, I think maybe we should, for the rest of the trip, hang out with each other. He's like, what's wrong?
Hey, but at least he tried, right? At least he tried.
About that, right?
Yeah.
Here we are in this situation where he didn't want to go to Disney World because he didn't want to do anything he didn't want to do. Then I don't know if he was doing this for me or for himself or what. He wanted to try to go through this thing, and then he realized halfway through, you know what? That's not all it's cracked up to be either. Maybe we should be in this together.
What a great life lesson all around, right? Dad, you didn't ask me if I wanted to go. You're telling me.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
and the main point of that whole story is that was the moment for me that I realized I'm not teaching this kid. He's teaching me.
Exactly. Yes.
There is no parent that's going to tell their kid how to live their life. And if you do, you're messing it up.
But we see that often with parents, though, don't we?
Every day.
Yeah.
I have clients that come in and I say to them, who the hell are you to tell your tell your kid what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, I know you have a great mother-son story. I don't know if you want to share that or not. If not, that's fine. We'll gloss over that. But you have a really nice moment with one of your clients. You were telling me about with her young son came and sat next to her.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were doing a session together, and her kids had to come in because they had a day off from school, and she didn't have a babysitter. So she had an older daughter, 9 or so, and then the young son was about 5 or maybe 6 years old. I think 5 years old, and maybe 4 actually. Now that I think about it. And so we were on the table, which is a separate room from where they were sitting, right? And the 9-year-old was looking after the 4-year-old. And we got into some emotional wah stuff, as we can always do, right?
Yeah.
And she was crying on the table and just tearing up or whatever, right? But she was very, very, let's just call her on her masculine side. Okay? She was very her, right? Like a workout person goes to something fit, one of the boot camping things, you know. And so anyway, long story short, as we're getting into this, I just felt something. It was a feeling. I don't know how to describe it. A kinesthetic, like, what's going on? And I look down, and this little boy is sitting on the floor with no expression on his face, just like you would see a dog sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
No different. And I looked down, and I said to the mother, I said, look at this. And she looks over and she sees him. And it broke my heart because she said, get in the other room, like that. And she got like embarrassed and stuff. And I was like, oh man, you missed that moment. You know, this kid's going to be on my table in a couple of years,
that was kind of her punch in the face, like right? For to use your thing, that was the moment of getting hit between the eyes that you realized and she missed it. Yeah,
she totally missed that opportunity. And I said to her after that, I said, he's your protector, isn't he? And she said, oh yeah, but that was amazing just to see, like, he had no expression on his face. He had really no emotion. He wasn't sad for her or anything. He was holding space for her. Yeah. Just like a dog would do for you, like your dog does.
My dog does, right? Yeah, you got to witness that. Yeah.
Right? That's what it reminded me of, and it was amazing. just an amazing.
Yeah, but it also reminds us that that's the state of mind or mindlessness that we need to be in when we do the voila work to get into the flow
Yes.
that we talk
Yeah,
about.
and at that
Yeah.
moment, I was in the flow, and something interrupted the flow, and I didn't know what it was. It was like a soft interruption. It wasn't a hard one.
Yeah.
But just enough for me to go and look down, and there he is. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, you're a little helper. Yeah, you're a total little helper. You know, it also, John, sounds to me, maybe I'm hearing this incorrectly, but that teaching moment that your son gave to you, because I know you take a lot of seminars and you're always searching, you know, and taking a lot of seminars, but it sounds like that was maybe the beginning of that,
Yeah.
of that exploration.
That absolutely was. And
Yeah.
it was interesting because at that particular time, like I have that ability to look back and go, wow, that was a really amazing moment, right? So that was an amazing moment. And right around the same time, I had a client of mine whose son was getting into some trouble. He was going down the wrong path, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Boca Raton, you know, when you have the kind of money that people have in Boca Raton, you send your kid away to a wilderness camp,
Okay.
right? That's where they go,
Okay.
right? So the in thing to do here is if your kid's messed up, as Simon says, right? I treat dogs and I rehabilitate people, right? But the
Yeah.
parents don't. The parents think it's something wrong with the kid, right? So,
Right.
And the best thing in the world for them to do is actually to send them away because they're the parents of the problem.
Right.
So sending them away is probably the best thing in the world because at that particular moment, sending them away allows them to be away from the problem. Right?
Yeah, and then maybe build up enough strength to be more resilient when they do come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in those people that do that kind of work are pretty amazing because they know after the wilderness program who should get sent back home and who should go on to what they call a therapeutic boarding school. But in this scenario, I was with my client. She and her husband were divorced, and she was remarried to somebody else, and he was remarried to somebody else, and the child was having some issues, and then they sent him away to the therapeutic boarding school after the boot camp. And at that particular moment, as luck would have it, on TV, there was a TV program, one of the reality TV shows of kids in, guess what? A boot camp. So I'm watching this on TV, experiencing what this her child must be going through, right? And he was amazing, the way he went through it. But when they went to the therapeutic boarding school, the first book they got to read was Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now.
And how old?
Yeah.
That's not an easy read.
No, this was 9th grade.
Wow.
Right? He was a high school kid.
Wow.
And so guess what I did? I went out and bought Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now.
Yeah.
And I decided that every book that he was being recommended, I was going to read. Because I was also using that to help his mother get through this whole thing.
Sure.
And to this day, and I told his mother at this point, I said, if I can shine any positive light on what you're going through, your child at this moment in his life is getting the most amazing experience to set him up for the rest of his life.
Yes.
To this day, I mean, this kid is amazing, But it's at that, they plucked him out at the very right time and put him in the right type of program, and he's doing amazing today. He just got engaged, as a matter of fact.
Is that right? What a great story. And, I talk about when I'm traveling around is I get to learn from everybody that gets to attend Voila. I get to learn back. And here's another great just example of it, right? It's about this wilderness thing. I didn't know much about it. Now I get to learn. And these as you say, these, I don't know if you call them instructors or leaders or whatever of this camp, just sound like they're doing some amazing work.
Yeah. It's an amazing world when you're looking at it from a non-judgmental. I don't have to figure it out. Like you mentioned that I like to go to seminars, a lot of seminars, right? But there's a huge difference. I used to go to seminars because I didn't know them. I no longer go to seminars because I don't know them.
Right.
I go to seminars because I just love the camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got back from one in LA, as you know, because hung out with you for a day. And that particular seminar, there was 40 people in that seminar. And when I tell you, Joel, no judgment, no conclusions, everybody's heart was open. It was a more advanced seminar, and everybody had been on this path together for a long time.
Sure.
Just like we had the same experience in Florida when you came for level 4.
For level 4, right?
When you get to that level, and everybody, there is no more, I need to be the smartest guy in the room. There's none of that nonsense,
right?
You know,
right?
When you drop all that stuff, you truly do see how people can get, you can see how people get caught up in like cults and stuff, because I mean, it feels really good when everybody's kind of on the same page,
Yeah.
But the difference is everybody is just open rather than everybody is following a leader,
Right.
You did a great job in level 4 of just making everybody feel comfortable about this journey we're on together, rather than in some of the previous ones where I have to show you what's going on.
Right.
We're making that turn together. It's fun.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because level 1, I got to challenge you maybe a little bit, or just say, hey, maybe look at this a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Level 2 is still pretty different, because we all think movement's everything, and then we realize, well, no, movement just brings our shit to the surface, so we can deal with it.
Yeah.
And in level 3, we got to some pretty deep stuff with you. We won't go into that, but in level 4, the reason I want to just kind of bring these around, because I was just recently in Florida teaching level 2, and I was talking about the experience of level 4. And Julietta, who co-taught level 4 with me in Florida, she raises her hand and she goes, I like how you just said that. You sounded like you were one of the students of the class. And I said, I was.
Yes. Yeah. You're having one of my son's moments, right? At that moment, you realize, wow, I'm learning from everybody else, and they're learning from me, and we're experiencing this together. And when you do that, think about how much more we can all get out of that.
Absolutely. It's hard to explain, but that's the fun part of teaching and being open to everything. Because you even said something very, very like off the top of your head. You're like, but what about if we did this versus that? And I'm not going to get into exactly the specifics of that, but I was just like, oh wow, didn't consider that. Thank you, John. I'm going to put that in the notes, John McDermott, right? Because you can't think of everything. It's just impossible. Even with this journey of level 1 to level 4, it's like, when I put this together, there's no way I could have even conceived any of that. I just had level 1, and that's all I could think about. And then it just keeps evolving and developing. So I appreciate you being and grateful for you being on this journey with me.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like it's not having followers or anything like that. It's about us doing it together.
Yeah.
And I've realized early on, there's no, my goal is to help the world heal in whatever way we can, and it's no one man can do it. We need everybody on board.
And the best way we can do it is to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, because then you're bringing your best person to every single situation.
Right. And no one's immune, right?
I'm trying to think of the statement that I had heard. This guy named John Overder, who's a neurolinguistic master, and he came up with something called humanistic neurolinguistic programming. I like that term. But he basically said something like, you can only be, hopefully I get this right, you can only be, the person in front of you can only be as good as the representation that you have of that person.
Right, because it's your perception of that person. Right.
But they can only be that good.
Right.
Because you're doing the perceiving.
Right.
So every single time a client comes in, the big difference between my old sessions with people. They're coming in, they've got something wrong. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to help them. I'm going to fix it. You know, all that nonsense that we thought we were doing that, right? I'm going to fix this person, you know, or I'm going to fix myself, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that is so limiting, right? So when people walk in, all you really have to do is see them as perfect.
Yeah.
Just see them as perfect, and then go into question and not conclusion. And this whole session will just take on a life of its own, you know. It'll just take on a life of its own.
Yeah, because I think you said this earlier in the podcast. It's as soon as you think you know what it is, you're starting to develop a conclusion, and now you're influencing what that conclusion is going to be for that person.
The wave function. That's why we have such a hard time explaining what voila is, or why our clients have such a hard time explaining what we did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you say to your clients, "You didn't do anything."
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I go, all I did was follow directions if I did anything at all.
Yeah,
right?
just listen and follow what you told me.
You told me what to do, you know, and I didn't do anything. And I tell my clients this all the time, and they crack up. I go, because they think I'm going in this direction, I go, I'm the smartest guy you'll ever meet. And they look at me and they go, yeah, that's pretty much right. And I go, and they think I'm going to do that from an ego perspective. And then I go, you know what? Because I don't know anything. And I don't know anything. I mean, anything.
Anything.
And I know, and that means I know one more thing than you.
Right.
Everybody else you're going to meet, right? I don't know anything, and therefore I know one more thing than anybody else.
Yeah.
Once you get to that point where you realize you don't know anything, once you come from that space, you're now open. You're open to whatever shows up. Say.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because, you know, still in level one, you know, it's the physical side, and we've got to teach that physical side. And then in level two, they get a taste of the emotional stuff. And it's been really interesting to see some of the ego flips where now they think they know everything because they have that final piece, right? And you and I, you know, are in the higher levels, we're going, that's cute, you know?
You're on your way.
Yeah. You're on your way.
The whole idea is you just realize that there is such a dramatic difference in once you crossed over from 1.5 to 2. So again, the rule of sevens, right? It's like the kid who was born, you know, lobotomized quadriplegic. Now they're 7 years old. Yeah. And at 7 years old, they can tie their own shoes, dress themselves, you know, get something to eat or whatever. They're starting to become more self-sufficient. Right. That's what level 2 does. Yeah. But guess what? You're 7 years old.
You're 7 years old. That's a great way to put it.
You're still 7 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And then you go from 7 to 14, right? Level 3. 14 to 21, level 4, right? And then who knows where we're going to end up.
Who knows? Maybe one day we'll become adults.
Hopefully not.
No, with that curious mind of play.
I would be like Benjamin Buttons, right? I think I'm going to go in the other direction.
You know what was really interesting? The other day, somebody had posted something that they're going through something pretty tough in life, and I kind of reached out to them. They're not a member of the VOILA Village, but I reached out to them. I'm like, you know what? I've never heard of a case like yours, and I would just love to play and kind of see what I can do or we can do to help you. And maybe get through some of this stuff that all these doctors are running all these blood tests and they can't find anything wrong in these reasons. So I'm like, I would just love to play. And they're like, well, what do you mean play?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, let me back up. I don't call what I do work. Yeah. I'm like, what I do, I don't call it work. I call it play instead. You know, and they're like, oh, you know.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, but luckily I caught it. You know, I was like, oh, that scared them.
That person is watching cartoons and they remember putting the brain of a chicken into. He's going to be in there with his lab coat. Come on. Right. Like on Saturday Night Live, Dr. Kevorkian, dentist, you know. Right. I
Oh, fantastic. See, you gotta laugh and have fun, and this is, I do this in my sessions too. I tell my clients, we are going to laugh and we're going to cry, and they're all going to be within seconds of each other.
Exactly. It's all good.
It's all good. And it goes back to that whole non-judgment thing.
Yeah.
Like you felt in that matrix class, and
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to develop in the VOILA, the higher level classes. What happens in a room stays there.
Yeah.
Because we've seen some beautiful stuff happen,
Yes. Yeah.
and we haven't been able to talk about it, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So John, if you don't, I don't want to take up your whole afternoon because I know we could talk forever. And we talked a little bit about how you use all these different modalities. Can you explain to people, because I know you do a lot of different things, but can you explain to people how VOILA makes everything synergistic for you?
Actually, Joel, I don't do anything.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So what I've recognized about VOILA is it gives me a nice framework, right? So, one of the things that you taught us was go to the spine, and in the higher levels, we map the spine out, right? And that has been an amazing help for me, because whenever I get into a situation where I found a portal, any portal that we decide to use, and I don't know where to go next, I take it to the spine.
Yeah.
And as soon as I take it to the spine, it begins to start to unravel before my eyes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what modality I think I'm using or whose philosophy I think I'm using. Going back to the spine is like my comfort zone. That's my safe haven. When I get there, things just start to go from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's definitely the antenna. So level 5, we're going to be finishing off most of the spine. So that's what the level 5 is going to be. But I was talking to an AK chiropractor. He's been in practice for over 35 years. And he's like, Joel, he's taken level 1 and 1.5. But he goes, Joel, he goes, when you're talking about the spine, he goes, that is actually how chiropractic started out.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's morphed into what it is now, and they totally don't even really use the spine anymore.
Yeah.
He goes, so you're almost taking us back to the original chiropractic techniques of using the spine.
Which through serendipity. I think Palmer ended up clearing up somebody's hearing loss through an adjustment to the spine. It was all by accident.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's like, oh my God, I'm onto something,
Yeah.
And then he went from there. But the old masters, the chiropractic masters, they had it figured out, or a lot, not at all, but they had a lot of it figured out. But then they had to sell it,
right?
And then insurance came involved. And when I saw that same transformation in acupuncture, as soon as the insurance companies decide that they're going to accept something, the price of the school skyrockets, and the quality of the education goes way down, because now they have to dumb it down to make it for the person that doesn't know anything but has enough money to go through their classes.
Yeah.
And so then it loses something at that point.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Very. Yeah. Cool. John, are there any, what would you say to somebody who was thinking about taking the VOILA journey, we'll call it?
Yeah, that's the number one thing I would tell people, even people that are already, in the lower levels, is don't fool yourself into thinking that you know anything, right? That you know anything at that moment. Recognize this is an entire journey, and it's not a journey so that you can, make more money and treat more clients and find people who have more, messed up things or whatever. You're going to do all that. There's no question about it. However, it's a journey for you to make yourself better. And you're going to by making yourself better, you're going to present your best self to every single person that walks in. And if you do it from the place that we talked about, where they walk in and you ask, what am I going to learn from this soul today? When they walk in, then you're on the path. then you're having fun, then you're enjoying yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself, this isn't the right path for you.
Yeah.
If you're getting nervous and you're, and again, that's going to happen in the lower levels.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're getting nervous because you think you need to fix somebody, and you see it in some of the posts on the VOILA page, but somebody gets really nervous about, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
You're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
There is no wrong. You're here. Your heart's in the right place. The only thing is, you want it yesterday or the way you want it, and that's
and thank you for bringing that up, because I kind of forgot about that. But so I'll share with you, and obviously the rest of the people that are going to watch this podcast. So I ended up doing a Skype session with that practitioner and the client, and everything from what they've been taught, they just currently finished up level 2, was balanced. Mm-hmm. So they did a beautiful job with the knowledge that they had, and it made my job much easier, because I could now just jump in and take off right where they left off and take them a little bit into deeper water and really get into the muck of some stuff. And I kept telling the client, I kept telling the practitioner, what an amazing job you did. You nailed it. Your client was perfect up to everything that you have learned so far. It was brilliant. So it wasn't that they did anything wrong. They did everything perfectly. And it made my playing with that client so much easier.
Yeah.
So I was so proud of that person. And hopefully she watches this. I told her this in person, but now I'm telling everybody. I was so proud of seeing that work, and what they did. It was really beautiful to watch.
Excellent.
And I was also very excited when you were out here in LA and we got to spend the day. And I'm like, John, do you want to play a little bit? You're like, yes. There was like no hesitation. It's like, yes.
Yeah. You'll never get a no from me.
Yeah, and it was fun because we got to explore some stuff that maybe we haven't explored with a client, because we got a little. We talk about being in that observer, but there's certain things sometimes you want to try, but you're like, well, that's with a client, maybe. But with you, I didn't have to go. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to try this. I haven't worked on this with a client yet. Hey, let's see if it works. And you turned around and did the exact same thing to me, right? You turned around and did the exact same thing to me, and so I got to learn from you. You got to learn from me. So it was just such a beautiful session, and I think from that we have our level 6 that we'll probably end up starting to put together. So I've been wanting to have you on here for a long, long time, but I think the timing worked out perfectly.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Because
everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's just one more thing I wanted to point out. I have a little pet peeve of mine. I talk to my clients about this all the time. Everybody has this statement that everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Bullshit. Okay?
Yeah.
Everything happens, and then we give it a reason.
Right.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
Everything happens, and then we give it a reason.
Exactly.
Right? And so if that's the game we're playing, and we're giving things reasons, give it a better reason.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you give it a shitty reason?
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Doesn't.
It's not, because everything happens for a reason means that I'm just sitting here and I've got no interaction, I've got no say-so, and things are just happening. Yes, things are happening, but the only reason why I'm able to say it's good or bad or whatever duality I want to use is because I gave it the reason.
You gave it the reason, exactly. You gave it the which side of the duality you wanted to pick. Yeah.
And because we're put on this earth to survive, most of the time you're going to pick the shitty side, right?
Right.
Because you're going to pick the side that basically says that I am protecting myself,
right,
because of my survival.
Right. Because one of the things we talk about, right, is if you can switch over to seeing pain as a gift, because it's telling you something's out of balance, something needs to just be put back in balance so I can be happy again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is a gift.
Everything.
Everything's happening for the greater good.
Yeah.
Everything.
And everybody's talking about putting up these energy shields to block out all this energy. It's like,
Yeah.
why? Let the
Yeah.
energy flow through you. If it sticks,
wanna
that's
play
something
that
I need
game?
to work up.
Yeah, why are we playing the energy shield game? It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't.
You know?
Doesn't make any sense. And plus, it's too exhausting.
Yeah.
You know?
I have enough steps, okay? I don't need any more steps.
Right? But to tie that back in, when because you and I knew each other at the time when we were fixing people.
Yeah.
How exhausted were you at the end of the day?
Hey, that's a great point.
Right?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I was spent. You know, energetically spent. I mean, I was like, whoa, and that was that was probably a little bit of the reason why I was looking also for some alternative things to do, because back then everything was movement, and I was exhausted at the end of the day. My feet hurt, and I was just like, I don't know if I can put up with another 5 years of this,
Right.
Now I'm like, retire? What are you talking about?
I have too much fun.
90,
Exactly. I'm having too much fun. And at the end of the day, you're not exhausted. You're not tired. You want more.
I go to the gym at the end of the day now. I wouldn't have dreamed of doing that.
Exactly.
Or I'll go to the gym before work.
Right, which before you were afraid to go to the gym before because it's going to make you tired, and now I'm going to be more tired at the end. Yes.
Boy, was I old.
Yeah.
I told you, I'm like Benjamin Buttons. I'm going in the other direction.
Right, and we can talk a little bit about what we talked about otherwise, because at our age, and if you guys don't know John, he was a pretty big bodybuilder in the day, and I wasn't as big as John, but I did some bodybuilding shows in college and whatnot, so it was all about pushing and exerting, right, John? And just recently we had this conversation of, why are we pushing stuff away from us? Why don't we push stuff away to bring in energy to us? Right? Bring that energy in so I can lift that up instead of expel and push it away. No, bring it into me.
I read that Cam Yoon thing in his program, that he basically talks about inhaling as you're pushing away.
Yeah.
And he says where you're inhaling is you're inhaling energy into the spine while you're pushing away. And I thought to myself, wow, that just makes so much sense. It's ridiculous,
I just put this together when you said that, because I used to play with that. Like doing pull downs, right? When you're pulling down, you're supposed to exhale. I used to inhale and pull down.
Yeah.
And it felt better. But I didn't know why until you just said that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Now I do that in the gym all the time.
Yeah.
But then I realized I was an amazing bench presser and squatter and deadlifter, right? Because I was in the Marine Corps powerlifting team and all this other stuff. Because anything that I could do to push it away from me, right? Because my life was like, I just needed to push stuff away.
Right.
I was great at pushing people away. I was great at pushing iron away.
Relationships, right?
Yeah.
Anything.
Emotions, you name it. Everything. I was pushing everything away from me.
Yep.
For my greater good, right? My protection.
Your protection, yep.
Now I'm bringing everything in.
Yep, and I could leg press like a motherfucker.
Absolutely, yeah. How many people do you want to throw on there along with all the
right?
It's like, this is nothing, And I realized, I go, you know what? Now, as I'm maturing, I guess you would call it, or whatever it is, or
maybe we turned 8. We're not 7.
Yeah, now what I'm doing is I'm bringing things in. Everything is coming in now. So I tell people all the time, I go, when you get to the point where you're, they'll call it awakening, you'll call it mindfulness, you'll call it enlightenment, pick something, right?
Right.
Whatever it is, you're getting to that point where you're now starting to work in rather than work out. And to me, working in is so much fun. I still work out, but I'm now, as we're finding out, even while I'm working out, I'm working in.
Yeah.
That was the point,
Absolutely.
So even though I don't have the standard need to go to the gym and lift heavy weights anymore,
right?
I still love to go to the gym, and I work in while I'm there.
Yeah. Absolutely. John, been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I look forward to talking to you soon. Again, let people know how they can find you in Boca Raton or anywhere in the world.
Email is allaboutmovement@gmail.com. Telephone number, which you will text, 561-306-2840.
Perfect. And you're in Boca Raton, Florida.
Yeah, I'm in Boca Raton. So that's, if people don't know, that's kind of halfway between West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. Sort of in the middle.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks so much, John. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
bud.
day.
Great talking to you.
All right.